Wyoming just turned every patrol car in the state into a federal inspection station, and the shock waves are going to be felt from the ports of Long Beach to the warehouses of New Jersey. As of March 5th, 2026, Governor Mark Gordon officially signed House Bill 32 into law. Now, on the surface, it sounds like a simple safety update, but look closer. This is a massive, unprecedented expansion of police power that targets every commercial driver crossing the equality state. If you're behind the wheel of a rig and a local cop, not just a highway patrol, but a city officer or a county deputy decides your English isn't proficient, they now have the power to hit you with a $1,000 fine and ban you from the state on the spot. No warnings, no fix it tickets, just an immediate out of service order and a massive bill. This isn't just a Wyoming problem, this is a national supply chain problem. If you move freight through the I-80 corridor, the rules of the game just changed. Before I break down the legal trap that this creates for drivers and the nightmare it's going to cause for carriers, you need to see the specifics of the bill for yourself. Click the link in the description box below to read the full article on CDL Life. You need to see the raw text of this bill before your next dispatch takes you through Wyoming. To understand why this is such a bombshell, we have to take a look at the sleeping giant of trucking regulations, 49 CFR 391.11. For decades, the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration, the FMCSA, has had a rule on the books. It says that a person is qualified to drive a commercial motor vehicle only if they can read and speak the English language sufficiently to converse with the general public, to understand highway traffic signs and signals in the English language, and to respond to official inquiries and to make entries on reports and records. It sounds straightforward, right? But for the last 40 years, the enforcement of that rule was handled with a certain level of professional discretion. It was almost exclusively enforced by DOT certified inspectors and officers who spent hundreds of hours learning the nuances of the North American standard inspection procedures. These inspectors knew that proficiency is a spectrum. They were trained to focus on whether a driver could understand a no hazmat sign or follow a directive during a level 1 inspection. Wyoming House Bill 32 just took that specialized tool and handed it to every officer with a badge and a siren. So you're probably saying to yourself, why now? Why Wyoming? The legislative history of HB 32 is a masterclass in states' rights versus federal oversight. During the committee hearings in Cheyenne, the primary argument from the Wyoming Highway Patrol was simple: safety. WHP Colonel Timothy Cameron argued that his inspectors are already doing this work, but they can't be everywhere at once. He pointed to a growing number of incidents where commercial drivers involved in crashes or inspections were unable to communicate basic information. In their view, a driver who can't read a steep grade sign or understand a truck use left lane directive isn't just a violator. They are an 80,000-pound liability. But the pushback was fierce. Opponents of the bill pointed out that Wyoming has some of the harshest winter driving conditions in the country. They argued that by empowering all law enforcement, some of whom may have never stepped foot inside a truck cab, you are inviting profiling. The bill passed because the public safety narrative won the day. But in doing so, the Wyoming legislator created a subjective trap. So here's where this deep dive gets dark. Think about the vibe check nature of this law. There is no standardized English test on the side of the road. There is no TOEFL exam or Rosetta Stone certification that an officer uses. If a local officer in a small town pulls you over for a minor equipment violation, maybe a cracked tail light or a dirty license plate, they are now authorized to evaluate your proficiency. If you have a heavy accent, or if you're nervous and stutter, or if you simply don't understand the colloquialism that the officer uses, that officer now has the legal authority to decide you are non-proficient. Once that determination is made, the law is rigid. The fine, $1,000 for the first offense. The ban, You are immediately prohibited from operating a commercial vehicle in the state of Wyoming.
Hey, I know you're enjoying the video, but check this out. If you're tired of the same old routine, chasing low boards, dealing with brokers who never pay what you're worth, or getting stuck in gig app madness, listen up. It's time to ditch all of that. With my final mile contract plug pack that I created, you're not just stepping away from the gig apps, you're also saying goodbye to the brokers and you're saying bye to the lowball lows for good. All right. With the contract plug pack, you get real contracts, real companies, and the whole toolkit: email templates, SOPs, and everything you need to run things on your own terms. So if you're ready to break free from all that hassle, click the link in the description box below and let's get you set up with steady, reliable contracts and real paydays. Let's make it happen.
Think about the implications of that ban. The law doesn't say you can't drive that truck. It says you can't drive any commercial vehicles in the state until you can demonstrate proficiency. So, how do you prove that? And where do you go? There is currently no clear recertification path laid out in that bill. You are essentially in a legal limbo, stranded in a state where you are now a prohibited person behind the wheel. Now let's talk shop. Let's talk about the carriers. Imagine you are a dispatcher at a mid-sized fleet. It's 2 a.m. Your driver, who has a clean CDL and 5 years of experience, calls you from a shoulder on Highway 30. He's just been issued an ELP citation. He's been fined $1,000, and the officer told him if he touches the steering wheel again, he's going to jail. The truck is loaded with high value electronics or worse, perishables. So, what do? You can't just tell the driver to limp it to the border because that's a misdemeanor now. You have to find a certified proficient driver to go get that truck. And now you're looking at towing fees if you can't get a driver there fast enough. You're looking at a service failure on the load, and you're looking at the cost of getting your original driver home because he can't drive himself back. And how does an ELP violation look on a carrier CSA score? While this is a state citation, it is based on federal regulations. This could potentially spike insurance premiums or trigger targeted status for the entire fleet. We are looking at an operational cost of $5,000 to $10,000 for a single subjective stop. Multiply that by a few drivers, and you have a carrier that is no longer profitable. The legal community is already sharpening their knives. Groups like the ACLU of Wyoming and various trucking defense firms are looking at the Commerce Clause of the U.S. Constitution. The Commerce Clause generally prevents states from passing laws that unduly burden interstate commerce. If Wyoming is effectively blacklisting drivers who are legally licensed by other states or by the federal government under a subjective standard, they may be overstepping their bounds. There's also the question of due process. If an officer can take away your ability to earn a living on the spot without a hearing and without an objective test, is that a violation of your rights? We are likely going to see a test case very soon. A driver will be cited, the carrier will sue, and this will go all the way to the 10th Circuit Court of Appeals. But until that happens, which could take years, drivers are the ones paying the price. So let's be real. $1,000 is a massive fine for a traffic violation. In many small Wyoming jurisdictions, the revenue from a few dozen ELP violations a month could significantly pad a local police budget. This creates a perverse incentive for predatory enforcement. If a town knows that every out of state rig is a potential $1,000 payday, do you think they're going to be more or less likely to pull trucks over? This is the same concern we saw with the speed traps in the 1990s, but now it's rebranded as a language safety check. To be fair to the supporters of HB 32, we have to look at the data they cite. They point to the move over law violations and the I-80 closures. Wyoming wins are legendary. When the signs say light, high profile vehicles prohibited and a driver who can't read English keeps going, people die. When a truck blows over and shuts down the main artery of American commerce for 12 hours, it costs the economy millions. Here's what the supporters are saying. If you want to drive a 40-ton missile through our backyard, the bare minimum requirement is that you can read the warning signs that we put up to keep you alive. It's a powerful argument, but does the solution, empowering every local cop to be a judge of language, actually solve that problem? Or does it just create a new one? So, what do you do if you're a driver or a fleet owner? First, education. Drivers need to know their rights. If you are pulled over, remain professional. The ELP standard is conversational. You don't need to be Shakespeare. You need to be able to explain your logbook and understand the officer's instructions. Second, documentation. Carriers should consider doing their own internal ELP assessments and keeping a certificate of proficiency in the driver qualification file. If an officer challenges a driver, having a formal document from the carrier stating that the driver was evaluated and met the 49 CFR 391.11 standard could be a powerful tool in court. Third, the Wyoming tax. Now, some carriers are already discussing routing around. It adds miles, it adds fuel, and it adds time, but if it saves you from $1,000 fine and a week of litigation, some companies will see it as a necessary cost of doing business. So whether you agree with the safety first mission or you're disgusted by what looks like a state sanctioned shakedown, the reality is the same. Wyoming is now the most hostile state in the country for drivers with limited English skills. The Wild West has just got a lot more complicated for the trucking industry. And this isn't just about language. It's about control, revenue, and the future of how we enforce federal rules on a local level. If you're a driver, keep your head on a swivel, make sure your paperwork is tight, and you're ready for more than just a license and registration check. And if you're a carrier, you need to be talking to your legal team today. Don't wait for your first driver to get stranded in Laramie to figure out your strategy. Now, this is a development story, and I'm going to keep a close eye on the first round of citations and the legal challenges that are sure to follow. Now, make sure you smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, share this video, and turn on your post notifications. And while you're still here, check out the video below on the screen where I talk about how 90% of carriers fail in the first year. Now, in this video, I talk about the single truck trap, the cash flow gap, scaling chaos, and failing forward. Once again, I'm Marcellus with Trucking with NBR. Stay safe, stay loaded, and I'll see you on the next video.